Good morning or good afternoon, depending on when you're watching. We are at the end of week 7 and just before the beginning of week 8 for Ed 435 for our online group. So we're headed into the last week. I wanted to kind of post one video at the end of week 7, beginning of week 8, just to summarize kind of everything that we have to do and what's left for the last part of our class and our last part of our time together. So I am going to leave my screen, you'll notice, on the instructor version, so it may have a little bit more showing than what it normally would if you were looking at it, but I want us to be able to get into some of the links in MindTap, and I can't do that if I'm logged in as a student. So I'll go ahead and leave it as this, but just to kind of touch base. So this week, if you were looking at the syllabus, we'll go in here and look at it. For week 7, we had 3 chapters that we were going to be working on. Let me get down here. So week 7 was chapters 16, 17, and 18. And so those were the 3 chapters for this week. We also have the chapter wrapping it up quiz for each of those weeks. And then I'm going to have you work on a video reflection. There was a video reflection that I asked you guys to do in the last couple, I think it was probably week 5, but I forgot to put that in the announcement. So you guys did not get it finished, which was my error for not including that. So don't worry about that one, but there is going to be one for chapter 17. And then week 8 is going to have chapter 19, and then your tutoring project is due, and then I'll ask you to do a plus delta, and we'll walk through what each of those things are. So if I can go back into our weekly content, I'm going to start at week 7 because that's where we are and where we're ending. We have chapter 16 about geometric concepts, chapter 17 on measurement concepts, and 18 on concepts of data. So for chapters 16 and 18, you're reading the chapters, looking at the activities, and making some connections there, and then you're going to complete the wrapping it up quiz for those chapters. Chapter 17, you're also going to read, and you're also going to complete the wrapping it up quiz, but when you go into chapter 17, you're also going to be completing a video case study, and it's just a simple video that's a few minutes long and answering some questions. So you're going to click on the video case. Let's let that load for a second. Okay, and this is what the screen will look like when it pops up for you. You'll press play and it'll start to play an example of a lesson in 4th grade about measurement.
It says Amazon had 8 cups of water.
And I'm going to go ahead and fast forward to the end, but I just want you to see the video and what it looks like when you get into that. It's only, let's see, probably about 4 minutes long, maybe 5, 4.5 minutes. But when you get to the end of the video, you'll have a set of questions that'll pop up over here on your right-hand side. So after you watch the video of a math specialist talking with her students about measurement conversions, you're going to answer these 2 questions. So why does she begin by showing them the image of GallonBot, which you guys may have seen in your classrooms? And if you were a student, what would be helpful about this? So there's 2 questions to this part here. And then what was the purpose of each of the small group and independent centers shown in the video, and how did each contribute to their understanding of the content? So throughout the video, really a bulk of the time is her walking through and explaining, I think it was probably 3 centers, maybe 4, that she has her students broken into, and she explains the task and the purpose. And so you will observe that, watch that, reflect on that, and then kind of reflect here in these questions about how did that help them understand the content that she wanted them to learn. So that is from your chapter 17. I'm going to go back into my week 7. Okay, so again, chapters 16, 17, and 18 from week 7, that's what was to be done this week, which matches what was on the syllabus. you will have the wrapping it up quiz for each of those, and then chapter 17 you also have the video case study. Then if we go back and we head into next week's work in week 8, we only have one chapter to finish out our work, and that's chapter 19, and that's just going to have the chapter and then the wrapping it up quiz. So between now and next Sunday at 11:59, you have 16, 17, 18, 19, 4 chapters, and then the quizzes that go with each chapter, and then the video case study that goes with chapter 17. And then I also have 2 other things in here for you. Earlier in the semester, I mentioned to you about doing a tutoring project, and we needed to kind of keep our eye out on a group of students to be working with. And we're going to modify this maybe just a little bit depending on where you are in this process. So this is, in a sense, your final. So it's 100 points, and you're going to be working with a group of students. At this point, if you've not started your tutoring group, my recommendation would be to work with one student. It's a little more manageable, and it won't be as cumbersome to compile all the information and the reflections. So if you look here at the directions, you're going to create a group, no fewer than 1 student, obviously, no more than 4 students. If you, again, don't have a group started yet, and this is something you're going to start next week, then I would only do 1 student. The focus is that you are working with them on improving math skills, whatever math concept they're either working on in class or something that maybe they've worked on before but they're struggling to master. In your directions, it says the group will meet for 6 20-minute sessions. I did not clarify, or I did not specify this last week for week 7. So that being said, you only have Monday through Friday next week. If you have already started your tutoring groups because you were looking at this rubric and the schedule and the syllabus, if you've already started your group, then yes, I want you to have 6 sessions at least. If you have not, then you have to have 5 sessions. So that would be at least once a day, each day next week. So this part right here I can modify a little bit. If you've already started your group, 6 sessions. And if you've not, then 5, but you have to have at least 5. You're going to create a log of your dates and times of your tutoring session. And then for each of the tutoring sessions, you're going to basically write a lesson plan. So if you guys are using Learning Focus lesson plan, that's absolutely fine. You're going to be sure to include the standard course of study that you're working on, the standard of mathematical practice, which may be more than one, that you're going to be working on for each of your lessons and sessions. So if you go back to the very first couple of weeks, you'll have that as a resource. Any materials that you needed for the lesson, student work samples. So when you're doing your work, if you are starting your group and giving your pre-assessment, you take a picture of your pre-assessment. So it's probably easier to take pictures and then upload them into your reflection, your final document, or you can scan and include them as a PDF also. But you want student work samples for pre and post assessments. Photos are acceptable. You're also going to, for each lesson, write what the strengths are, what was an area for continued growth, and what was a challenge. And then you're going to summarize the growth of the student or students, if you have more than one, following the last session. And then you're going to write a reflection of the experience overall and how it may influence you with students in your classroom. So kind of the big idea is you are going to work with a student, but no more than 4 students, and you're going to write a log. And if you want to do it like one document, but several pages within the document, the first page may be that you have a log of your dates and times of your tutoring sessions. And then as you go through that same document, each day could have its own page where you have this journal of your tutoring sessions. So your standard of mathematical practice, materials, samples of student work from each session. At the very least, you're going to have work samples from your pre and post assessment, but if you can include them for all sessions, that's ideal. And then you're also, for each lesson, going to include the strengths, weaknesses, or areas for growth, and then the challenge. At the end of those at least 5 sessions, then you're going to have a separate page. It's a summary for the growth of the student from session 1 to session 5 or 6. And then you're going to have another page of the reflection of the experience overall. So if you look at this as kind of a page guideline, you're going to have one page for your log of dates and times, one page for each of your at least 5 lessons, and then a page for your summary of student growth, and a page for your reflection. So this is going to be 8 pages at least. I'm not saying that, if you can merge things on some pages or combine some things, that's absolutely fine. I'm just saying that's kind of a guideline. In the rubric, if your group is between 1 and 4 students and they're working on the skills and they're meeting for the allotted time, your group should be no less than 20 minutes per meeting. But this is an error and should not be 9 weeks. It should be 5 sessions, at least 5 sessions. So I will clarify that on the rubric when I'm scoring. But for your group work, it's going to be that the group is between 1 and 4 students working on their standard, meeting for 9 sessions meeting for 5 sessions at least 20 minutes per session. Your log is going to have the dates and times of the tutoring sessions maintained accurately, showing at least 5 sessions. The journal itself, again, has for each of the 5 sessions, so that 9 will change to a 5, your standard, your principal standard of mathematical practice, and the materials, student work samples, photos are acceptable, strengths, weaknesses, and challenges. And then the summary of student growth is well written, includes data. In your summary, I want to see, when I started working with Emily, we were working on fact, fluency, and addition. And Emily was able to complete 10 problems in 1 minute at the pre-assessment. On the post-assessment, Emily was able to complete 40 problems in 1 minute. So including that growth conversation using data. And then the reflection being well written, few to no errors, it's easy to read, no distracting errors. So those are the elements of your tutoring project. If you have questions, let me know. But that is going to be due the last Sunday at 11:59. The only other thing that I have for you, and I know it's kind of a lot because we're combining 2 weeks, is this 435 plus Delta survey. And I will be very honest, ladies, and say that I think I mentioned in my first video that this is the first attempt I've had at teaching an online course this way, and specifically taking a 16-week course and putting it into 8 weeks. And so I really, really appreciate your feedback and your input. So at the last of our classes, so next Sunday at 11:59, if you could also complete this plus Delta survey, it will take you into the survey where you will have a chance to respond to each of the tasks that I've asked you to do. So the textbook itself, the math instruction observation, the poverty article reflection, being a discussion lead for our group for a week, the tutoring project that you're about to complete, the article reflection on the trends in math, any resources that were provided to you, and then a plus, meaning something that you liked. It could be one thing, it can be many things, at least one thing that you liked about the course. And a delta can be one or more things that you disliked about the course, that if you were to take the course again, you would want me to do differently. And please be honest. I value your input, and I, moving forward, want to make sure that I'm meeting the needs of our teacher candidates and our TAs to teachers. So those are the items that you have for this week. I will go ahead and put an announcement up now so that that's there for you for your resource. I appreciate all of your hard work. If you have any questions between now and the last Sunday at 11:59, please feel free to give me a call or an email. Thank you, ladies.